You're listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt, where we talk about hunting, shooting, fishing, camping, and everything else that the great outdoors has to offer. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, before we get into tonight's episode, I've got some pretty big news. So recently I was approached for our show to be on US radio, and it is happening. So Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast is the flagship international show for ORN, the Outdoor Radio Network. This is pretty big news. It's a 24/7 radio station and bringing outdoor entertainment around the clock to everyone from the US, and they're going to be launching internationally as well. So really excited and great to be a part of the ORN team. The other thing is we've set up all our URL links so you can access everything in the one spot, from affiliates to you name it. So linktr.ee/Australian Hunting and Beyond. That will take you to the site, and there will be every link there so you can access whatever we have. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get into tonight's show. This bloke is hilarious. If you haven't checked him out, you definitely need to. All righty, Trent Ellis. Thank you for coming on all the way over there from Mississippi, I believe.
Yeah.
Mate, I actually got onto your Instagram through my wife, because she saw your little hunting videos about, you know, where you do both characters of yourself and the missus. And she related to that and said, "This is you." So she instantly followed you, sent me a heap of your things, and I've got to say, it is hilarious. I love them. I'll definitely be posting some for people to watch. But, mate, how are you? Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Man, I appreciate it, Matt. Yeah, I'm the videos that I do of quote unquote my wife, of that character, most of the time it's like based off a true story, just like the one I released just the other day. I thought, well, it's not going to do, that great, but let's just throw it out there. And it was the one about, my wife asking me to do the dishes, and I'm putting it off, and not doing it when she's exactly wanting me to. And I learned real quick, I've learned really quick that my wife is not the only spouse that has to deal with what she has to deal with.
Hey, that video in particular, my wife sent it to me straight away. I think you'd literally just dropped it, and she'd sent straight away. He goes, "See, he's on point. He knows you."
Yeah.
Except the only difference was she's like, "But the bag of pretzels, for you, it's a packet of chili chips." And then she was going through the differences, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll pay."
Yeah, yeah. She got on to me today. She's like, she's been asking me to clean the bathrooms for 3 days now, and I've had stuff come up conveniently, and she's been patient. She's been patient. She told me today, she's like, "Just do it tomorrow. Just do it tomorrow. Just do it tomorrow before you go hunting tomorrow evening. Just do it tomorrow." So maybe tomorrow is my day. We'll see.
Well, I've now got a list. So I've got that bad at it. And after seeing those videos, the wife has got a list on the fridge, and she said, "That's all the things you've got to get done before going hunting." I did go hunting last week, but nothing on the list has been done. So there she keeps referring it back, going, there's definitely similarities. But mate, before we started, I shocked you a little bit, because this is one of my favorite hats. And for people watching the video, you can see it's a mix of my NFL team. Unfortunately, I do go for the Dallas Cowboys, but it's also camo. It's like two things combined. It's just like the perfect mix for me. But you're a bit shocked as an Aussie that I'd have something on like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, what y'all watch, what you don't watch, I don't know if it's mainly Crocodile Dundee and Quigley Down Under, or, and sit around and talk about kangaroos and wombats. I don't know, but it was a little bit of a shock for me, I don't look, man, I'm not a Cowboys hater, okay? For the longest time ever, the Cowboys were America's team. I remember the days of the Tony Romo hatred going around. And now I'm a Mississippi State grad and a Mississippi State fan, and Dak Prescott came from Mississippi State. So I don't hate him. I just, you know, it was a little bit of a whoa. He's got a like the only thing that would have been more shocking is if you'd have come out with like a state jersey on or an Ole Miss, hat or something like that. I'd be like, wait a minute, this dude's trolling me a little bit. But
Nah, look,
yeah,
I've got to say I'm a Longhorns fan, so that's just the
really,
way I roll. Yeah, just to keep it in Texas, I
there
have
you go.
I'm probably an exception to the rule over here. There is quite a good NFL following, but NFL is actually my favorite sport to watch. I keep saying my wife consistently thinks that I probably was born in the wrong place and I should have been born in Texas. But
You could probably hunt like 99% of the animals that you hunt in Australia. You could probably hunt them in Texas.
well, I think
Yeah.
the start. I was watching. It wasn't the Tiger King. It was the new one, the Chimp. Chimp Crazy on Netflix. There, it's insane. Some of the people over there keeping chimps as pets, which is just unreal.
Yeah.
And they were saying
Texas is its own world.
Oh, 100%. And they were saying something like the tigers over there account for like 90% of tigers are in Texas or more than in the wild. Like it's absolutely insane to think they're pretty free over there and just do what you want to do. So I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of that.
Yeah, Texas is insane, man. I've got a good friend, Corey Lear. He's the owner of Monarch Hunting Products. And I've gotten to know him real well, and I've been over there quite a few times in the last year, I'll say. And every time I go over there, man, I like Texas more and more and more. I don't love the desert shrub looking part of Texas, which is pretty much all of Texas outside of East Texas. East Texas looks like here, with pine trees and a little bit of oak trees, but the people are awesome and kind of like, we've been talking about like they're just they're their own world over there, man. They got everything. But as from a Longhorn standpoint, they do have Arch Manning,
Yeah.
which has caused me to start watching Texas Longhorns a little more this year. And
Yep.
I'm not pulling for them when they go against Mississippi State, but I'm not pulling against them. Okay, I'm not going against them. All right, I love the Manning family. I've watched a documentary on them, and they've got me. They've won me over. So I'm pulling for Arch.
They seem to be going really well with him at the helm. And he
Yeah.
comes from such great pedigree. I love
Oh,
Eli and Peyton. It's just,
yeah.
they're
Well, they
just
say
solid.
they say Cooper, his dad was like the best athlete of them all.
Yeah.
He just got hurt while he was at Ole Miss, I think. But as far as just pure athleticism, that's like the rumor or whatever was that Cooper was like the best athlete. But yeah, when your dad's Cooper, your uncles are Eli and Peyton, and your grandfather's Archie Manning. I mean,
You've got to be good at football, don't you?
you could just having that last name, you could get on the practice squad at the Colts or something. I mean,
100%. And he looks
yeah.
good, actually. I've been pretty impressed so far. Like, I'm
For being
keen.
19 years old, he's fast as lightning, and he's got a good arm. He's got a good head on him. I mean, to be that young and to be able to perform like that, I think he's going to do well at Texas.
No, I do too, and I'm glad he's with the Longhorns. It's I don't know why I got into NFL, to be honest. I just started watching it, and then it's very different to the sports that we have over here. And I know a few of our like best rugby league players came over and tried NFL, and they didn't make the cut. I remember seeing a fantastic photo of Jared Hayne, who at the time was probably the best rugby league player, and he was playing for the 49ers. He was in their training squad, and he was with all the other running backs. And this bloke was like really hard to tackle in our sport, and he was pretty fast and physical, and he was probably one of the best at the time. And went over there, and mate, he looked tiny and slow compared to some of their running backs that were on the 49ers at the time. And at the time, I think 49ers weren't like they are now, who are pretty dominant in the NFL. They were, I think they were dead last. and they just had him as the international player because you can put an extra on your squad. So, yeah,
Huh.
I don't know how I sort of got into NFL. And I remember watching the Cowboys from young, and I sort of reflect on that now. Funny you bring up Dak Prescott. I don't like Dak at all. I can't believe he's getting paid the most in the NFL. I don't think he performs to it. He chokes in the playoffs. So it is a burning thing. So I'll blame you for that one coming out of Mississippi there.
Look, I don't know if he's a Mississippi native or not. So he did go to school at State, but I don't know. I don't
Tough
know,
gig,
man.
though. I'd hate to be a quarterback. I'd hate to, like everything's on your
Yeah, but
shoulder.
I mean, you don't really feel sorry for none of them.
No, not
You
at
know what I
60
mean?
million a season he's
It's
making.
like I was just to say when they making the kind of money they are. I mean, I know they paid who was it? I think it was Jimbo Fisher. They paid him $52 million to leave Texas A&M. I
Yeah.
mean, at that point, if I'm a college, I mean, if they were to just give me an opportunity to coach somewhere, I would just be the worst so they could fire me in the first season and give me $30 million. I'd be like, dude, we're not winning a game. Like, we're going to be because I'll gladly take the payout. So it's ridiculous, man, the money they're making, which I'm happy for them. But,
It's big money, though. You look at it and go, Deshaun Watson got 230 mil. And on the weekend, he had a quarterback rating of, I think it was 8.91. Like, it
yeah,
was just, what the hell is going on? And I think the 230 is guaranteed money over the next 5 years. It's like, Jesus, that's a lot of money.
good Lord, man. The guys you feel sorry for are the ones that are like making $100,000 in their first contract, no money really at all, and they get hurt and they didn't get a degree.
Yeah.
They don't have any like
Fallback.
job prospects at all. And they don't have their 3 or 4 years in with the NFL to get their pension or their health insurance or nothing. That's where it's like, dang, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's not 100,000. I think league minimum's like 400, but still, that's the ones you feel a little bad for. Kind of the mediocre ones.
It's very unique, but the money over there compared to here is just huge for sport. And look, that makes sense. You guys have got a lot more people. We're only about 27 million compared to, I think you're at 365 over there. So I will say this, I went to a Jets Broncos game in New York because my wife was seconded over there and worked over there for a little bit. And we were lucky enough to go to the Broncos Jets game, and it was a nothing game, but man, the traveling, the stadium was packed. The atmosphere was like, I've gone to like our biggest NRL grand finals and it had nothing. Like our stuff had nothing on that. So I always say
Yeah.
I'd love to get to a Super Bowl.
Is y'all's biggest sport like rugby or soccer?
It's probably AFL, which is Australian rules. So we're very funny. We're segregated quite similar to you guys, I suppose, because you got your basketball, then you got your football, and then you got your baseball. We're similar. We got cricket, AFL, and then rugby league are probably the predominant sports, I would say. Soccer is getting bigger, but not. It doesn't rank as well generally. It is climbing up a lot too, but we don't get the crowds. Like even our biggest turnouts will be 100,000. Our normal games will be 20,000. Like your college games over there were just next level.
Oh yeah.
And then the tailgate, like I've always just said US does sports well. Like I went to the tailgate party, went to the games, and we were just like, this is how you do sport. Like I'm happy.
Well, look, have you gone to a college football tailgate?
No, I
That
was close to going to a Syracuse
look,
game, but I'm dying to go to college because I hear it's better.
If you can go to an SEC tailgate, pretty much any SEC, I know there's going to be people that if they watch college football and they're not from the SEC, the Southeastern Conference down here, they're going to automatically be against it because they hate us. But that's just because the SEC just freaking dominates, and they have for decades now. But I'm telling you, SEC is like top tier tailgate, and then pretty much any conference after that, as long as it's college, is freaking amazing. You cannot go wrong, no matter what college football tailgate you go to. It is I went to one in Missoula, Montana, the Missoula Grizzlies. I think that's their name. I went and watched them, and we tailgated before. No, it wasn't like going to the Junction at Mississippi State or the Grove at Ole Miss, but it was still like just, I don't know, just college football, man. The atmosphere and the fans and everything, it's different. It's freaking awesome. You got to do it. So if you get a chance, go do it.
Oh, it's on the list. I remember going to Syracuse, and if I'm saying that right, I went into their like mall or shopping center, and just the merchandise for the uni team was like 2 levels. And I was just sitting there going, that's like our major stores, like a Myers or something like that. And it's just the football team for that, that university football team there or college football team there. It's like, what the hell? It's unreal. And then don't get me started on your hunting and fishing shops over there. Oh man, my wife was doing everything to keep me away from them because I was just like, I bought way too much. And she's like, how are we getting all this back on the plane? I was like, I don't care. I'll figure that out later. I was like,
I know. It's rough going to Bass Pro Shop or a Cabela's or, anything, even the smaller hunting stores. It's really hard as a guy to go in there and just not break the bank on your way out,
And look, it's so well priced. That was the other thing I noticed over there. Like, I end up buying like rangefinders, binoculars, all these different bits of gear, and I saved good $500-600 on some of them comfortably, just with the conversion rate, shipping, and things like that. But it's so. What I found is just the variety and the pricing was really good, and the culture seems a little bit like. Obviously, there's always going to be differences between cultures. But the culture over there really seems to be supportive of hunting, and we don't seem to have that as much here in Australia. It's different.
Well, I know I looked it up about a week or two ago. I was talking to somebody about it. Just the hunting industry in the United States brings in about 17 to 25 billion dollars a year in revenue.
Yeah, right.
For the country. There's a lot of things. I mean, it's not like it used to be to where, you just buy a little license, a little cheap old license, and you go out there and, hunt or whatever. I mean, you got to have all these permits now. Um, you know, you got to have all the best camo and all the best this and that. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we buy that we probably don't have to have. We probably don't have to have 80% of the stuff that we buy to hunt. Most of it's out of luxury, and convenience. But nonetheless, the hunting industry, it brings in a ton of money to this country. And, and just from a sport, a sports aspect, and a conservation aspect too. I mean, if we didn't hunt, these animals would eventually become overpopulated and go extinct, and die out and go extinct. And, that's why I've talked to people that, don't like hunting and stuff like that. And it's like, well, the problem with all that is if you don't hunt, then animals become overpopulated and they deplete their natural resources and then they all die. So we don't have them. So you have to hunt them in order to keep that correct balance to where you actually keep having the animals. And, but from a food aspect, we don't have to do it, but it's still, I think it's just so ingrained into our just natural fibers, of who we are as humans to want to go out and hunt and harvest and chase, and do that. There's still a ton of us out here in North America. I'm just speaking for us here. I don't know about everywhere else, but I know there's a ton of us here. You get outside the cities in the United States of America and you go into the rural countries or the rural counties and stuff like that. And, there's a lot of us. There's a lot of us that like to sling an arrow at something or, throw a gun on a gun rack in a truck and strike out, but I know I meet up with it. So if you can't tell.
It's funny, hey, like I look at it and go, over here, we've got relatively the opposite viewpoint. So you can't really, you can't hunt native animals. So if we talk like kangaroos,
Yeah.
you cannot hunt them. So public land, definitely off limits, period. Private land, it's a little bit different. There's tags and things like that, which I'm not opposed to. The tag system, you look at what happens over there. I think it's done quite well, raises money back into conservation, protecting the animals. It's a win-win. So here, it's a little bit different. We can do it, but it's not on the guys are hunting. It's done as culling or pest control. So it's a
Yeah.
very different way of doing things. And we see the issues with that on overpopulation. When a drought hits here, there's just kangaroos starving all over the place because there really isn't a natural apex predator on the landscape other than us. You could argue dingoes or wild dogs could be the other one, and they're probably it, but they're not in. I don't think they're in the numbers to really control populations. And it's very we have a very narrow focus. I think the animal rights people over here and anti-hunters have done a far better job than hunters, and I guess that comes on the back of quite a variety of things. But I love how you guys do it, and I remember reading a stat on white-tailed deer alone saying that if people didn't hunt over there, the population would just get out of control because the only thing keeping them in check, obviously, you've got bears and cougars and different things like that, but it's the hunters and they are taking
Hmm.
enough off the landscape to make sure that's a manageable number. It's a healthy population. But you also do a far better job over there of using biologists and things like that so they know how many should be on the landscape, how many tags should be issued. And I know it's not a perfect system and some people don't like the fact you got to pay for it, but I think the money value and then the food resource is why it's so ingrained in your culture and acceptable. We don't have that here. And I feel that's why it's on the outer.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think that, I like the tag system too. We don't have a tag system in Mississippi per se. We're one of the few states in the country that doesn't have an actual like buy a tag and tag the deer with it when you kill it. But we've got. I looked it up yesterday. Me and my neighbor was in the shoot house right here, and we were hunting and trying to get him. We got a decent deer coming out behind the house. I'm trying to get him to kill, and we were talking about it, and I think we've got like it's estimated 1.5 to 1.8 million white-tailed deer in the state of Mississippi alone. And we've
Wow.
got, you know, about a million more people than we have deer. But I mean, we've got nearly 1.5, 2 million deer in this state alone. And if we didn't hunt, you know, it would just we would have I guess if 90% of the people that hunt now didn't hunt, it would be good for the other 10% of us for about 15 years, 10, 15 years. And then, like you said with the kangaroos, you'd look out and there wouldn't be, a blade of grass left. There wouldn't be,
Yeah.
anything left, and it'd be just deer laying all over the place. But man, it's huge. It's a huge, like, especially where I live, like where my wife was from or is from. My wife's from Washington State. So completely the other side of the country for us. Like the culture up there, they still have a decent amount of hunters and outdoorsmen, but the hunters that are out there mainly hunt mule deer and elk, and they don't hunt as much. I'll say that. Not to take anything away from them, but for instance, here in Mississippi, our deer season is from October the 1st to January 31st. So 4 months straight we have to hunt deer. 2 of those months we can hunt ducks. Right after that, also during that time, we can hunt squirrels. You can always kill hogs, coyotes, all that kind of stuff because they're ruled as pests. But you have a month after, you have a month and a half after deer season closes for us. So you have all of February and the first half of March of pretty much no hunting. I mean, you can hunt squirrels and real small game stuff, but after that, then it comes down to then turkey season opens up. From March 15th to May the 1st. So basically, the only time that people are not really going out and hunting is June, July, and August. And then September, we actually have a velvet season for our deer that we have a 3-day season. And then September the 1st, we have goose season and I think teal season and dove season. So we've only got like 3 months out of the year that we're not trying to shoot and kill something here in this state.
Yeah.
So, like for this state especially, and I know a lot of the states surrounding us here in the South, hunting is even more ingrained into who we are. I mean, because I know like there's I'm telling you, dude, I guarantee you any road that you go down in the state of Mississippi in the rural areas, which is the majority of it, but basically outside of the big cities, South Haven, Tupelo, Jackson, Flowood, whatever, Hattiesburg. If you get outside of those cities in the county areas, I guarantee you 80 to 90% of the people hunt
Wow.
in some shape, form, or fashion. They might not all be deer hunters. They might not all be duck hunters, but they're gonna hunt something. It's just I know that's what my wife, she was so blown away at how big that culture was here, because like back home for her, you had a couple of guys that were big hunters and they went out every year and got a mule deer, got an elk. And, when we got married or before we got married, we were talking about we're going to live in Mississippi or Washington. I'm like, babe, y'all have a 2-week deer season. There's no way I'm living in Washington State. Like, I would go insane. Like, no, it's not happening. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So that's something different for us. So for here, deer, well, they're considered a game species, but they're more and more trying to put them onto a pest species,
Yeah.
which is quite scary because I think that they shouldn't be. I think they should be a game species. They were brought here for that. They're not considered feral because they were released. And there's a lot of semantics here, but currently we can hunt them all year round. So there's no seasons. But the offset to that is you can only hunt a very small, in my opinion, small amount of public land. A lot of state forests and things like that, but that's it. And you've got to book in and go through a bit of a process for that. And then the private access is the other side of it, which is not like you guys. So we don't have hunting leases and things like that. So it's literally if people let you on. And there's been a big shift in how many people let people on for that sort of stuff now, especially in areas like we're down in our sort of certain parts of our what we call the snowy mountains. There's been a shift in who is living down there and who's bought. So a lot of city people have bought in and they're anti-gun and anti-hunting. So the deer populations have exploded, but then we've got national parks, which are unhuntable. So the deer just stay in there and breed, same as pigs, wild horses. So there's this whole thing. And then the only way they sort of control them at the moment is by aerial culling, which they just get up in a chopper and shoot them and leave them to rot. It's sort of like a travesty. So when I compare how you guys do it, I constantly talk about on the podcast and push that we should be looking more at what you guys are doing over there because it makes so much more sense. And it's a bit alien for me to think about having a deer season. We did have them in the past, but not currently. I've finally got my hands on a product that I absolutely love, and it is super simple, but also so versatile to use. This means that you can tailor how you want to have your coffee when out in the bush. If you want to support the podcast and get an awesome bit of gear that I know you will love, and how you can use the code AHB podcast to get 10% off. The link can be found in the show notes, socials, and on the website. Final press, you'll love it. What's it like? Is that your favorite thing to hunt? Is it really counting down the days?
I wish you wouldn't ask me that. Yes, I can't say for sure. I think deep down, yes, deer season's my favorite. But it's hard. It's gonna be it's so close between deer and turkey.
You're right.
For me, because like during deer season right now, yes. And when I'm dragging out a decent buck, a good buck or a decent buck or whatever, it's like in that very moment, I know, yes, 100%. When I'm going to scout, when I'm in the tree, I'm in the saddle, and the sun's coming up. In that moment, yes. And it's kind of hard for me to say though, like, because when turkey season hits, then I'm out of deer mode into turkey mode, and then turkeys have their own, like, as soon as you hear that first gobble of the season, it just sends chills up your spine. And it just like, oh man, I mean, you start to fan out. It's, I would say yes, deer is number one, but turkey is touching it. I mean, it's number two, but it's so close to one. I mean, it's close, but yeah, deer's probably going to be on top. And I've deer hunted since I was, I killed my first deer when I was 9 with my brother. So I mean, I'm 29 years old, so I've literally been deer hunting now for 20 years, and I just got into turkey hunting probably 7 years ago. I guess killed my first one about 5 years ago, but yeah, yeah, I've got a lot. I definitely have a lot more history, a lot more memories deer hunting than I do anything else. So
So how do you personally hunt? Is it stands hunting? Like we over here do a bit more stalking, so we're always moving. Is it different over there?
yeah, I mean, it depends on where you are in the country because I have friends like me personally. I do a lot of saddle hunting. Are you familiar with the tree saddle stuff?
It is not very popular down here, and I've just spoken with a bloke that does that, but it's nothing like it is over there. So there's a very small group here that would use them, and in some spots you can't use them. So I'm pretty confident public land in New South Wales, where I live, that's the state I live in, we can't use them on public land at all. I'm pretty confident of that. I know you can on private, but I don't know many.
Can you use tree stands on public?
No. So the
Okay.
only so the
Okay.
only public it's a very it's very weird. So blaze orange is got to be used. Like so, you got to have a piece of attire, whether it be a hat, shirt, whatever. But
Hmm.
then, interestingly enough, you are allowed to hunt out of a ground blind, but that's
Okay.
it. So it's very
Huh.
it's different, and no baits. So no bait stations.
That's dependent upon states,
State too.
like what
Yeah. Okay.
state you're in. Now, if you're on public land anywhere in the country, you can't bait.
Yeah. Very cool.
But now there may be one or two states that allow baiting on public, but I don't know of any. For me, I grew up hunting. Like the first 2 deer I ever killed, I killed on private land in my uncle's shoot house. Him and maybe my daddy or somebody else built a big wooden shoot house, put it on a big food plot, and that's how I killed my first 2 deer. My first one was a spike, and my second one was a cow horn 4 point. Thought it was a cow horn spike and had 2 little brow tines. So when I was real young, I'd say from 9 to and just hunting private land. Like my mom and dad had 30 acres growing up. My grandparents had 40. And I would hunt each one of those places from time to time. I'd say pre-teens all the way through my teenage years, I was hunting out of like ladder stands, or a lock on. Every now and then, when I was a teenager, we would drive to an area of public land, kind of like a tradition every year that we'd go once or twice and have deer camp. And we would take old man, they're literally called OLE, old man, or OL apostrophe, I can't remember, but old man climbing stands. And there's a top and a bottom, and you attach it to the tree. I'm sure you're familiar with what I'm talking about. A
Yeah, and you
net
sort of
seat.
shimmy up.
Shimmy up that tree. That's
Yeah.
right. That's when I started climbing it. Like, I think I was, about 10 or 11. That was before they made it a law. They hadn't made it a law yet to where you had to have a safety harness on.
Yeah. Okay.
And then enough people fell out and broke everything or died that they're like, all right, it's illegal if you don't climb with a safety harness. So, But yeah, I started climbing with old man climbers. So anytime we'd go to public, we'd have to walk a good ways, and we wouldn't have a shoot house anywhere, or we wouldn't have a ground blind, or whatever. And here in Mississippi, where we would hunt, it would be the understory would be super, super, super thick. So, I mean, it's not like hunting Kansas to where you can get on a little bitty hill and look all the way around you and see for 800 yards around you and glass. And there's very few spots in Mississippi that you can glass.
Yeah.
I mean, most of it's going to be thicket, pines, hardwoods, whatever, but you're very limited to stalking.
Yep.
But we would always go in there and we would, find a deer crossing or find rubs or scrapes or hunt next to a thicket and climb up and, hunt that way. And now what I do is pretty much the same thing except with a tree saddle. And see, here for us in Mississippi, we have a longer gun season than most. We can hunt with some type of firearm 2.5 months out of the season, out of the 4 month season, 2.5 months. You can either hunt with a muzzle loader or a single shot, quote unquote, primitive weapon. It's not really primitive, or a regular rifle, like a 30-06, 308, 7 mag, whatever. Like 2.5 months out of the year, you can do that. So when it's rifle season or gun season, I'm not me personally, unless I'm going to a piece of public land that is bow hunt only. I'm taking a rifle. I'm taking a gun. Uh, and when I do that, depending on where I go, I may do what we call like slipping. We'll just slip through the woods. We'll walk super, super, super slow and just kind of be looking around, especially if you're in you really can only do that in like hardwoods, because the understory is not as thick in most places and you can see a lot further. You may be able to see 100, 150 yards in some areas. And if it's during the rut, you can call a little bit from the ground. Mississippi's not a big calling state like the Midwest. You can sit up in a tree stand or a tree, saddle, whatever, and you can grunt or take some horns and rattle. And a lot of those states in the Midwest, deer respond to that stuff really well. I'm only speaking for Mississippi because that's the only state I've deer hunted in the South. But my home state, from my opinion, what I know, deer do not respond to that very well
Okay.
at all from the tree. Now, I saw last year firsthand on public on 4 different occasions in a 3-day period that if you're on the ground grunting and rattling and kicking brush and sounding like deer on the ground, during the rut, that they respond to that a heck of a lot better than some guy sitting up in a tree hitting a
Yep.
grunt call every 15, 20 minutes. So I try to mix all that kind of stuff in. I mean, I've got a monarch shooting house, hunting blind right here behind my house that I hunt on my private land, technically my neighbor's land. And then when I go on to public, I use my tethered saddle. And then like I said, when I slip, I've saddle hunted the last 5 years, but when I slip, when I go on to public, I'll still take my saddle and put it on just in case, like, I come up on a spot that's got a crap ton of sign and I'm like, man, I got to sit here for at least a couple of hours. I'll shimmy up a tree if I feel like I got a better vantage point right there, or, if I'm going to hunt all day and I slip most of the day and then the last hour, 2 hours in the evening, I'll decide to pick me out a spot and hunt, still hunt. That's what we call it.
Yeah, we
When
call it
you're
sit and wait. So similar.
okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'll still hunt. If I'm going to slip that day, I'll normally still hunt, last hour, hour and a half, there in the evening. But, I try to mix it all. Uh, but I probably saddle hunt, still hunt more than more than I slip.
We depends where you hunt. If you're on public land, it's so like I got back from a hunt last week and it was thick. Like we went through a couple of tracks and you could not see 5 meters through the underbrush. Like there was just so thick with these like just eucalypt saplings and things like that. So you sort of haven't got any chance. I think we bumped a couple of deer, but you couldn't even see them to really do anything about it. So it's very similar trying to find a nice spot, sit and wait, depending where you hunt the things. There are places on public land which you have a bit better viewpoint, I suppose, so you can glass a bit more in the sense of sit and glass and then stalk in. But it always fascinates me watching over there, watching Meat Eater or Jim Shockey and all those sort of things.
Yeah.
The glassing looks so much fun. I haven't had the chance to experience that over here because it's a lot more thicker. And I only hunt public lands, so I haven't been lucky enough to get too much private access. So that's very different, but it is so much fun. And I'd love to turkey hunt. Just watching those episodes where they're just with the strikers, I think you call them, and striking it on that little box and bringing them in. That's bloody cool. And the decoys and that looks so much fun. Just that noise aspect too. I get very impatient. I don't know about you. I sit there and I'll sit there for an hour and I'm just chomping at the bit to do something. I'm a very active person in my life, so I struggle.
Yeah. That tells me right there. See, I can sit in the woods, especially if I've got a decent, it don't even have to be big, but if I got a decent buck on camera, I can sit in the woods for a very long time.
Yeah, right.
Very long. I mean, I hunt. I mean, last year I was probably in the woods 4 or 5 days a week, and I was probably in the woods hunting no less than, I'd say I'd sit no less than 3 to 5 hours out of every sit. And most of them I wouldn't see nothing, If you are a very impatient person when it comes to hunting and you need to, you need to be seeing some action to stay focused and stay tuned in, you would love turkey hunting. you would hate turkey hunting when they weren't gobbling, because then
Yeah.
you're just walking out in the woods, and depending on where you are in the country, you may be sweating and being eat up with mosquitoes and ticks like here, and watching out for rattlesnakes and all that. But I mean, y'all got mosquitoes over there, I'm sure that'll kill you,
We got
or
all of
eat
them.
you.
Yeah, and a lot more snakes. I think we got like 9 of the 10
Yeah.
most venomous. So
Yeah, I'm not. That's why I'm saying I'm not coming. I'm never coming to Australia to hunt or do anything like that, because after seeing the wolf spider that's bigger than any plate that we have in this house and having it in houses, no, man, no, I'm not interested. But I will say, getting on a turkey, and being able to call and interact with that thing, and seeing how they work and seeing them fan out and seeing the colors that they turn, and just hearing, I mean, I'm telling you, dude, like hearing a turkey gobble at 20 yards from you is stupid. It's freaking insane. Like, if we have a saying down here in the South that comes from old preachers, they would say something. They'd say something behind the pulpit, and it'd say, "Now, if that don't light you fire, then your wood's wet." Well, buddy, let me tell you, if a turkey gobbles at 20 steps and that don't light you fire, you just ain't got no wood. Like, I mean, it is one of the best feelings in the world. You definitely love it. You would love it.
I know I would, because we have the rut here. We've got quite a few different deer species that we can hunt, and fallow deer that are here, they croak. And man, like getting onto them in the rut and hearing the croaking. And I had a good 20-minute session with one this year trying to get him in. He just wouldn't come that extra and show himself out of the bush. But man, that's fun. And that was like I reckon he was probably 30 to 50 meters away. The turkey side too, and that just the way it sounds, that's, oh man, I listen to it and watch it, and I've said to the wife, that's on the bucket list. I get over there, that and even not to hunt an elk, but just to hear it bugle, like that sounds freaking awesome. Like that changes the game a little bit because I like to explore and I hate just sitting there when nothing's happening. But if there's croaking going on or you've had the camera out and different things like that, then it's a change. But so it's a little different here. So where I like to hunt is a 4.5 hour drive away. So
Yeah.
it's not something I can just go to overnight. And I've got a young family. I've got 2-year-old twins and a 4-year-old. So it's not something that I just can drop and shoot off. So when I go and I've got that couple of days out hunting, sitting there for 3 hours and nothing happening really is very difficult to process. And it's like, I haven't got much time. I'm not seeing much. What's
Yeah.
over this hill? So it's a tricky, a bit tricky, but hey, a day out in the bush is far better than being at work or stuffing around too. So I can't complain too much.
Well, have you ever heard of the YouTube channel The Untamed?
No,
You ever watch them?
no, I haven't.
All right, watch The Untamed. All right, they're a group. Josh Ilderton, Jay Cox, and Zach Markhams. I think I said Zach's name right. They're a YouTube channel in West Virginia, and if you want to see some deer get stalked in the mountains of West Virginia, I mean that's a great channel because Josh he's the big old hillbilly, and he's got a dadgum baby fist of a dip in his lip every time you see him on camera. And he'll get on there and he'll say something just like this, Bubby. That's right, son. Yeah, we're going to get over on that hill right there and we're going to kill him, right? I mean, he's just redneck, good folks, though. I got a great chance to turkey hunt with him this past season. And, that was a wonderful time. But Josh cannot sit still in a stand for very long. He's going to go through the woods of West Virginia, which I would not think you could stalk very successfully with, especially with a bow. And that joker does it. If you want to see some deer get stalked, watch them.
I'll check it
Another
out.
one, have you ever heard of the hunting public?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I know Zach. Zach is a big stalker in that group. Zach, the curly long haired boy. That son of a gun can stalk. But the hunting public, they kind of do it all as a group. They all kind of can stalk, steal, hunt, whatever. And they hunt freaking everywhere, so you see all the different terrain and all the different places they go. But yeah, when you say, things like stalking and another thing too, I talked to Nick and Ted. We had them on our podcast, gosh, month and a half, 2 months ago, probably. And I asked Ted, I said, what do you, I said, y'all primarily grown up whitetail deer hunting. What's is deer elk hunting better? In Europe, more fun. He said, hands down, elk hunting. And he said the same thing, kind of like turkey hunting. He said, hearing an elk bugle and
Yeah.
getting out there and going out there in the mountains, and being out there in that rugged, you just feel like you're hunting more. Made me think of that when you said that about those deer, those fallow deer
Yep.
croaking or whatever.
Yeah.
I've wanted to elk hunt for a while now, but I haven't. I just hadn't pulled the trigger on it, man. I hadn't pulled the trigger on getting a license and going out to Colorado or going out to a different state and chasing them. I'm too eat up with the whitetail, and like you said, I got some responsibilities here too. As far as a wife and a kid, and not as much as you do. Sounds like.
Yeah. It's chaos.
You got a household full, man. But yeah, I would say those would be two really good channels to give you basically as much of a idea of what you could get into in North America here with between all those hunting and what you could, how fun it could be and what you would probably like more.
How great is like I am at odds with social media and, just the way the world's going with the internet and things like that, because there's some rubbish on there, but then there's so much good stuff, like getting to see a totally different way and learn about different hunting. And that is so damn cool. And even yourself, like watching your videos, they crack me up, and there's some really good stuff on there. And I appreciate you taking the time and making them, because it's, you get the opportunity to be able to see similarities and differences in how things
Yeah.
are done and whatnot. And I think that's awesome. And I'm a big advocate of wanting more young people to get out in the bush and get out amongst nature. And social media does take a lot of your, I guess, focus and time, but then so many good things come of it. And even technology, us being able to have this conversation 20 years ago, this wouldn't have happened. And it's
Right.
really cool to hear that, have a conversation with you, hear differences, similarities, have some ideas. Like I had a coon, a coon dog hunter on the other week, and just hearing about that and how he goes about it, that's so cool, because we don't really have the similar here to actually tree dogs. So we have a lot of pigs, or what you guys call hogs, and we use dogs on them, whether they be bailing them up or whatnot. But we don't have the tree dog side of it. So even watching that, it's so damn different. And or a squirrel dog, it's so different to how we go about things, and being able to sort of think about it and go, oh, you could possibly do that here with this, but it's not really happening. That's so cool. I love it. And then, well, let's get to your Instagram, because I really want to know where did that come from, the idea to make videos. And just so people understand, if you're not watching the video of the podcast, Trent's, big beard, big fella. You crack me up when you dress up as a woman and play the wife role. I think you were in a midriff in one of them the other day, this grey midriff, and I was cracking up. And where did that come from? Where did the idea for that, or just was something mucking around, or?
It's, as you can tell, man, and your listeners, I'm sorry, I'm a long-winded guy sometimes, but it's kind of a long, it's kind of a long answer. I mean, I've always been, the class clown. I've always been the guy that loves to entertain, make people laugh. I never thought I would do anything like that at all, or like what I'm doing. But how it all came about, I'll be very, very honest with you. I've been in finance now for the last 4 years, since 2020, and I've been doing investments. I started off in insurance, and then I got a Series 6, 63, and 26 license to do mutual fund investments for people, and been doing that for the last 3 years. And it got kind of slow. Business got kind of slow for me back last summer. Last May, June, July, somewhere in there. And I had just seen a YouTube short of Justin Nunley. I don't know if you know who that is.
Uh,
He's a guy that he's got probably 10 million followers on all the platforms, or more. But he does a lot of. He started off with listen, did you know? And he would bring out some ridiculous fact, and it would be comedic and, all this kind of stuff. Well, I had just started watching some of his stuff, and you know how the algorithm does. When you watch somebody more than once, it starts showing you more of them. Well, I had seen him on a podcast, and they asked him about the money he was making and stuff like that. And he said, I average about 25 grand a month. And this was back in 2021. And I'm like, Lord, that was, or 22. And I'm like, Lord, that was a year ago. I didn't even know who this guy was a year ago. And he was making that then. And I just now, like, good night. Like, he's not like the biggest guy in the entire, he's not a Mr. Beast, you know?
yep.
And so I was thinking, like, that's what started the idea of doing this. Cause I was like, well, why not try it? I may make a little extra money, you know? So it started off from the money standpoint, from, business is slow. Maybe I could do this, and maybe, just maybe, I could be a little bit successful one day to have some kind of monetary gain from it, whether it supplements my slow time and in business, or whether I get, 10 years from now, I get some sponsors that, help me out on the hunting side or whatever, but just see what happens. So August 24th of 2023, I downloaded TikTok and I did my first two videos. I told my wife, I said, look, I said, I'm just going to try this. I knew very, very little about it, very little, but I knew that I wanted to do Southern hunting outdoorsman style comedy because hunting is my passion. That's my main passion. And, I've got a lot of experience with it and I've got a lot of memories with it and a lot of funny stuff and a lot of stuff that I know people deal with and can relate to and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, you know, that's what I want my premise to be on everything. So, I told my wife, I said, look, I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to upload 2 videos a day for 7 days. And, I don't care what it does. I don't care how many views it gets or followers or what. I said, the only thing I'm going to go by is if I don't hate this by day number 8, I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm not going to say I'm going to do this for 6 months or I said, but I'm going to do it for 7 days. And if I don't hate it on day 8, I'm going to just keep doing it and see where it goes. And, in those 7 days, I had seen some people in my small town and I think my videos were getting I think one of my videos got like 4,000 views and I was like, heck yeah. Like, man, this is awesome. And I was seeing some guys. I remember we gathered to eat supper at my uncle's house one night. He had a bunch of folks over. I can't remember if somebody's birthday or something, but there was some folks there that they were like, man, we seen you video and man, that's hilarious. That's just like us. Cause I was doing like Southern phone calls, and, how it's like real redneck and there's awkward pauses and you can barely understand them. And they ain't talking about nothing, nothing important. Just, but I was getting really good feedback from them. You could tell they were all loving it. And that made me feel good. I was like, man, that's cool. And so that helped me keep going. And then it wasn't long and it started to kind of take off. And, I just, it actually made me fall in love more with the video and the editing, the starting with something and seeing the final project. And that's why I got into long form on YouTube as well, doing, kind of a vlog style YouTube channel from the long form style is, whether it's hunting or shooting guns or fishing or, whatever. I enjoy getting a video camera and filming, doing stuff like that and getting in here and getting on Premiere Pro and editing it and pushing it out there. I've enjoyed that a heck of a lot more than I thought I would, but it's been fun. It has. It's been fun. It's kind of crazy. Like I said, man, it's just, it's never would have thought I'd done anything like this. First day that I did this, my first 2 videos, my wife's folding laundry right here on the kitchen table. And she's like, I don't think I can respect. It's making me queasy right now, but I don't know if I can respect you doing this, Trent. Like, you've made fun of guys who do this. Like, they're not real men, all this kind of stuff. And like, now you're going to try to do it, and 40 days later, I was monetized on TikTok and I had one video do well and made a few $100. And all of a sudden that changed in her mind real quick from she couldn't respect it to now she's like, hey, I think you need to change this up in your next video and do it like this, But yeah, it's crazy, man. And then as far as like what my content is, just a lot of it, especially stuff with my wife. Not my no, not my wife. I make her out to be a a butthole is a nice way to put it. Like a kind of a nag. Like my wife is actually the opposite of what I portray. but the skits that I do of my dad are like nearly exactly right, like spot on. So a lot of it just comes based on a true story, and I throw it on there and hope that people can relate to it, and if they can, at least laugh at it a little bit. But it's been a pretty fun ride.
Mate, it certainly does that. I thoroughly enjoy them. I'm glad the algorithm sent your content my way because I do have a giggle every time, and the wife ones especially, because I sit there sometimes and I'm the same. I've got a really great wife that's very supportive, and it takes a lot of time to make content and edit content and put it out
Yeah.
out there. So it's sometimes a bit of a thankless job. And look, in fairness, there are a lot of people, I'm sure you'd have the same, that they reach out and thank you and send nice words and messages, which that has changed for me a little bit on wanting to keep going and doing it. There's been times where I'm like, oh, why do I do this? It takes a lot of time, but when you get a nice message or someone saying thank you, appreciate it, geez, it makes it worthwhile. And it is fun. And I thoroughly, like, I only really do the podcast, but I thoroughly enjoy getting to chat to different people, hear their different experiences, learn a bit. If I learn a bit, great. If I don't, so what? It's good fun. It's different. And I'm very similar. I wouldn't have put myself out there in that space previously. So it's very different in how I operate too. So it's hey, it is what it is, and it's good fun, and it's another skill to learn and something different that I take away as a challenge to grow and get better as I do it. And I'm sure you would have been the same between your first videos and the ones you produce now. There's been a lot of changes. You got better at a lot of stuff as well.
Oh yeah, and that's from a business standpoint, man. Like that's what I love about doing this is because you know, like for one, it's all on me, nobody else. There's no like I'm selling myself on here to people. I'm having to sell myself. I'm having to sell a character or whatever enough for them to keep watching so the algorithm keeps pushing it out. But, all people have to do is literally watch it. And if a video doesn't do good, I don't have anybody else to blame but myself. And so many other businesses, you can do everything right and you just be in amongst a terrible demographic.
Yeah.
And thank God for finance for me, because I think if it hadn't have been for that, I wouldn't have some of the tough skin that I have today, because I started off and I started off my first 2 years, I didn't make hardly any money in finance. I mean, because it was 100 and still is 100% eat what you kill, 100% commission.
Yeah.
But it taught me be consistent, be persistent, and just, it's the numbers, volume, and just keep going. Don't quit. Just keep going, find a way to win kind of thing. Find a way to make it happen. Find a way to call the next person. If you run out of people to call, find somebody to talk to. And it caused me to develop that. Just don't quit. Don't worry about it. As long as you're still here in 5 years, you're going to be much further ahead in 5 years as long as you're working at it every day than you are right now. And that's the way I've looked at social media, but it's easier for me, because like I said, it's all on me. And I love that. I love that. I love that if a video flops or whatever, it's just like, well, I just got to figure out how to make it better or how to make it not do that again. And I love knowing that, as long as I'm uploading videos and working hard, and trying to put out the best content that I can, for folks, as long as I'm still here in 5 years from now, I may not have 1,000 acres in the Mississippi Delta. I may not be a multimillionaire, whatever the case, but I'll be a little bit better than I am today. And will still be my own boss, and, and it'll be all on me. And that's what I like, so, you mentioned the business standpoint of it. I really, I hope that doesn't make me sound like, I don't like people, because I do. I mean, there's some people I don't like. I think we're all like that a little
Everyone.
bit. But there's a lot of folks don't like me either, so it kind of evens out. But I'm like everybody else. I mean, I've worked a ton of jobs, and I've worked around people. I know what it's like to have bosses, and I know what it's like to, you're doing everything that you can right, but it's just not in your control. You still gonna eat a shit sandwich, and you're gonna have to grin doing it. And I'd rather eat those sandwiches knowing that I made them instead of somebody else made them and fed it to me, and I just got to go along to get along. Like I like that aspect, of the business, and it's a challenge. There's a lot of risk reward with it. It's still a eat what you kill thing. There's no security. There's zero security. I mean, I can't, I make zero money off clocking into a 9 to 5 job and, doing a great job or doing a half butt job. I'm still going to get paid. Like, no, I've got to go out here and perform with my finance, with my investments, and also with content, or we just don't eat. So I like that challenge. It's a challenge.
I look at it like this: is my kids are going to have this to look back on and really understand who I am as a person and hear
Yeah.
and learn and sort of have that space. So I feel that there's a lot more than just what you see sort of thing. There's so many more elements for it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. That's another reason that I try to keep everything clean, because I don't want my family or my kids. I don't want to bring dishonor to God or my family, but I also want my kids to be able to, in 5 years from now, watch any of my videos and be able to show them at Sunday school without having to turn the volume down real
Yeah.
quick or, cover the phone up real quick or whatever. And I think it's been fun for me. I'm not big on YouTube long form, doing the long videos, but I still do them because I love them. And my son, who's a little over 2 years old now, 3, 4 nights out of the week, he comes in here and he says, "Dad, I want to see you shoot a watermelon." And I got one video to where I'm shooting some guns, and in the video, about middle ways through, I'm shooting some tiny itty bitty watermelons with a 460 Magnum or whatever pistol. And he wants to see that part. He wants to see Daddy shoot the watermelons. And that's where it's like, man, that right there, being able to shoot a video and go back and watch it. I don't care if it's got 587 views. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
good. It's just a journal.
Yeah.
So,
I've got something similar. My kids, just little videos on my phone that I haven't really pushed out, that if they see someone in camo now, it's always daddy, which is just,
uh-huh.
it's so cool. It's cute. It's cool. And then when they see me, or if I film some deer or things like that, then just learning and it's pretty funny. My older son now sort of stalks around pretending like he's learning to stalk, so that all those little experiences, you just don't get them back. And it's cool to see that and have that. And then, occasionally I'll be on YouTube and the videos pop up, or a short that I put up pop up, and the kids will see it and go, "Daddy," and I want to watch it. So I get where you're coming from there. So it's something else just to add to the fun of doing it as well. So, on top of hunting, getting to talk about hunting, think about hunting, refine what you're doing hunting. I love it. It's just all encapsulating, isn't it? So it's great.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, man.
All right, Trent, I know it's late over there. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. So thank you for staying up and coming on. And thank you very much for your time. Love your content. Keep putting it up there. So really appreciate it, and all the best.
Hey, same to you, Matt. I appreciate you having me on here, brother. If I can ever do anything to help you, let me know.
Appreciate it, man. All right, listeners, bye for now. You've been listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt. Thanks for tuning in, and can't wait to catch you next time. But in the meantime, if you want more, you can find it at linktr.ee/Australian Hunting and Beyond. That will give you our YouTube, Instagram, X, Facebook, you name it. We'll catch you next time.